Resident Evil 3 is considered one of the best Resident Evil games in the series. Playing as Jill escaping Raccoon City with the iconic Nemesis clutching at her heels was revolutionary. In 2019, we were treated to Resident Evil 2 Remake, which was one of the best remakes in the series, as well as one of my personal favorite games of all time. So you can imagine how excited I was when Resident Evil 3 Remake was announced. If I remember correctly, I was actually waiting to go into a college class, and I was just so excited when I saw the trailer just before I went in. I was so ecstatic, and I was like, oh my gosh, we get to play as Jill in this cool remake. I'm so excited. So when it came out in April of 2020, the first big stage of lockdown, I was very excited to play, but I finished my first playthrough in about 5.5 hours. Even some of my friends finished the game in 4 hours, which was crazy to me at the time. So in this video, I wanted to share my thoughts on what I liked and disliked about RE3R, as well as my own personal twists on what I would have loved to see in the game. I'm going to start off with the positives first. The intro for Resident Evil 3 Remake is very strong in my opinion. The dream sequence of Jill turning into a zombie was intense. As well, it highlights her trauma of the Spencer mansion from RE1. Turning into a zombie is terrifying for us and Jill. Jill wakes up and gets a call from Brad warning her of something heading her way. Before she can do anything, Nemesis makes a grand entrance. The whole chase sequence is so much better than the start of OG RE3. I especially love the part when Jill is running from Nemesis in the burning part of the apartment. It's so intense and I loved it. Very good opening. It's probably one of the best parts of the game for me. It's always highlighted in my mind when I think about RE3R. Just after Brad's quick introduction and infection, as well as Daria Rasso refusing Jill's help, we make it to the top of the car park where the escapee helicopter is shot down. And here as well, we are also treated to a really iconic moment. Carlos jumps into action, saving Jill just in the nick of time as the pair head towards the substation. The first 25 minutes of the game is so good. It sets up the story for Jill's threat of Nemesis, her distrust of Carlos and the rest of the UBCS team due to her trauma of the Spencer mansion, and the ultimate goal of escaping Raccoon City alive. Very good, very strong and solid introduction to Resident Evil 3 Remake. Exploring the downtown area of Raccoon City during our next objective to get the subway back online was another treat for me. There is quite a bit to do in this area, which I love and enjoyed walking through the streets of this zombified town. There are a lot more enemies on the screen in Resident Evil 3 Remake. However, I did love that in RE2 Remake you can shoot the individual limbs of the zombies, making it more strategic to bypass them. RE3R does not have this, but to be honest, it doesn't really bug me at all. Just after we turned the radio tower back on, where we were in that section with the really creepy bugs, is where we get our first proper encounter with Nemesis. I do have to say that the Nemesis encounters we do get and all the small optional ones with Nemesis is a lot of fun for me. The whole scenario of the first boss fight with Nemesis on the roof is another favourite moment of mine. I love that as Jill we make our way onto a burning construction site trying to get away from Nemesis with the flamethrower. It's just really cool. And then leading up to the fight on the roof was really fun for me. I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of my favourite fights in the whole game. The second boss fight with Nemesis was also a lot of fun. I really loved that we fought him in front of the clock tower in the huge courtyard. In fact, I pretty much like all of the Nemesis boss fights. I still have my issues with how he was used in the game, but that is for later in the video. I also loved the hunter gammas in the sewer section. They were really creepy. I hated how they opened their mouths and tried to eat Jill. I thought they were really cool design. The hospital is the second area in Resident Evil 3 Remake, and I have to say they did a good job on the hospital. It feels very big inside and there's lots of rooms to explore. The hunter reimagined in the RE engine are terrifying. I never wanted to fight any of them. I always avoided them when I can. They literally destroy me on every single playthrough. I also enjoyed playing Carlos a lot. I especially love that his dodge button, Carlos sucker punches the enemies away, is such a blessing in the game and really helpful. I also love Jill's dodge with her quick draw, but Carlos's sucker punch was just satisfying to perform. My last positive point is the characters and the voice actors. All the characters in RE3R got a whole new fresh coat of paint. My favourite performances were Nicole Tompkins as Jill Valentine, Jeff Shine as Carlos, and Neil Newborn as Nikolai. They all did such an amazing job with these characters, and it's so lovely to see how the actors and actresses' careers have gone forward since doing RE3R. They did an amazing job, and I'm so grateful for the effort they put into their performances. Really well done. We have now arrived to the negative part of this video, the things that I personally disliked or would have loved to see changed or expanded on. And I must start with how short this game is. With RE2R, Claire and Leon's campaigns were roughly 8 hours per campaign, and it felt like an actual experience. The recently new RE4R's main campaign takes about 16 hours to complete the main game, and Separate Ways' DLC takes round about 6 hours to complete. So looking back at RE3R being a short game does hurt it a lot, especially when recently new DLC like Separate Ways is longer than an actual game that people probably paid quite a lot of money for at the time. There's also a section where Jill says her iconic "You want stars" line while being chased by Nemesis. Nicole says the line amazingly, but I'm not sure why the devs put it here instead at the end of the final fight with Nemesis. Plus, if you get hit while being chased, it disrupts the line, which kind of sucks. As I mentioned, I really enjoyed all the Nemesis boss fights, but my issue is that they're all scripted events. There's only 2 times in the game where it's kind of optional, but it's not really fully optional. We really needed Nemesis to be more free roaming in the game, so we could have done with some more options to fight him and get chased by him. For example, I would have loved to see him in the sewer section part of the game, chasing you down as you're looking out for hunter gammas as well. That would have been really cool to see. I also have mixed feelings on the RPD section during the first time you play Carlos. I really loved the whole part of Brad attacking Marvin. That was really cool, but I feel we still could have had that iconic Nemesis, Brad and Jill cutscene, so later when Carlos arrived he could have taken down a parasite version of Brad, so both moments could have been in the game. I also wouldn't have minded being able to play as Jill in the RPD while being chased around by Nemesis. It definitely could have added some more playtime for the game. Unfortunately, RE3R has some cut content. We have no more Gravedigger boss fight, and we don't get to explore the clock tower. This is probably the biggest disappointment for me in the game. There could have been so much more to do in the clock tower, so much more to explore. Another chance to be hunted down by Nemesis, as well as more genuine game time for the title. It also sucks that it looks like in one cutscene Jill is about to enter the clock tower only to be taken straight to the hospital section. I really loved the Nemesis boss fight in front of the clock tower. I just wish we could have gotten to explore the clock tower one day. Maybe in my delusional mind we'll finally get Resident Evil 3 Remake Director's Cut one day. So the last area of the game is Nest 2, and I have mixed feelings. I like 80% of the lab. It's really fun to explore. The only thing I would have loved is if we had more of that forgotten rusty vibe like in the original. That's literally my only complaint for this area. I mainly enjoyed it and everything that happens. I just wish it would have looked a bit more more different. I think if I look at Resident Evil 3 Remake, it's definitely more of a reimagining than a remake. It definitely deserves the title of reimagining, but when it comes to a remake, it definitely falls flat in a lot of areas. I think Capcom have definitely learned from their mistakes. That's why Resident Evil 4 Remake was so good. I do think, however, RE3 Remake is kind of the foundation of what a remake should not be. I believe that you should always add stuff to a remake, not cut stuff out. And I think that's where the problem lies with this game. If it's cutting stuff out that people generally didn't like, that was a nuisance, that's fair enough, but cutting out really important areas really holds this game back. It's just kind of sad that Resident Evil 3 Remake doesn't have that kind of gravitating effect for me to go back into it like other Resident Evil games do. I just wanted to add a little thing that Capcom and GOG have recently partnered up, and you can purchase the first 3 original Resident Evil games on GOG's website for PC. So that's Resident Evil 1, 2 and 3. So I think it's an amazing opportunity if you're a newer fan to this series to play the original games and see the difference between Resident Evil 3 Original and Resident Evil 3 Remake. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so sorry this video took a while to come out, but I'm really proud of it. It's definitely a shorter video than I like to do, and hopefully next time with my next video I'll be a lot quicker. So thank you so much, and I really hope you enjoyed.